Hello everyone and welcome to English 200, 201, and 202. This is week 8 and we will continue to work on creative nonfiction this week. So for this week, please begin by reading chapter 5 in our textbook. It's on memory and the memoir is the exact form we're working on, which is a type of creative nonfiction. I'd also like for you to read The Drama Bug by David Sedaris, which is found in the anthology located in our textbook. And I'd like you to read My Birthday Kinda by Ross Gay, which is a PDF that's uploaded under this week's content. I'll also be reading it aloud to you because it's very short. I'd like for you to watch this week's lecture, as hopefully you're doing right now. Then you'll need to complete Journal 12 and 13, and you'll need to complete a formal assignment, which is a revision of either Journal 12 or 13. If you're in English 201 or 202, in addition, you will also be doing your own workshop with just people in 202 or 203. More details about that will be featured later in this lecture. So let's talk a little bit about form and creative nonfiction. Creative nonfiction is not about proving a thesis, right? When you write creative nonfiction, you don't want to do it as a way of proving something, right? It's really a place to reflect, right? And make connections between things. Many times one must totally, if you're writing about a memory, which in this week, that's what we're focusing on, many times you have to really destroy what happened and really take it apart in order to get an essence of what that experience was. We as human beings, it's hard for us to recall directly, things that are really emotional for us. You always want to close your creative nonfiction essay on a powerful moment. There's two different ways that you can organize your essay, and we have two examples this week to kind of showcase this. One way is chronological, and that is David Sedaris's really funny essay called The Drama Bug, which is about learning about miming, and he's always really funny. So he uses humor, but he tells the story in a real chronological fashion, right? It's one thing happens, then another thing happens, and it follows the order of time that we think of as normal. Braiding and jumping or jump cuts is where you bring together two or more disparate topics or ideas and you space between sections rather than using transitions. You also take liberties in the way that time appears in the essay. You can flash back, flash forward, change the way that you're approaching the narrative in and out. And Ross Gay really does play with that in his essay from his book, The Book of Delights, that we're going to be reading later in this lecture. So whenever you're writing creative nonfiction, you want to think about your audience while you're writing. This isn't a time to navel gaze. That means don't just use this as a time to work out your own problems. You want to give the reader signposts at the beginning of your essay, right? You want to tell them, hey, this is going to be something important in the essay that follows. Like give them, like you would in a poem, you give them like some sort of an image or a metaphor or something that is specific and really catches our attention. You always want to be as specific as possible and use small gestures instead of large gestures. So instead of saying that your mom was disappointed in you, you want to tell us how your mother registered disappointment, right? Like how did she do it? Did she crinkle her brow or did she slump her shoulders, right? Use these opportunities to really have us get to know the people who you're featuring in your essay. You always, when you're writing anything, but especially when you're writing memoir, you don't want to tell us what happened. You want to show us with specific detail. Do your research. So if you're writing about something from the past, research fast. Don't just assume that you remember everything correctly, because that is usually not the case. You can ask some of your relatives, your friends, or you can research, what did things look like then? What cars were popular? Or, like really double check your facts. Another thing that's really, really important whenever you're writing creative nonfiction is to not make yourself out as a hero or as a victim. No human being is one or the other completely, okay? You always want to add balance. If you're showing real heroic side, show the reality of it, that, even heroes feel fear, right? And realize that while you're writing, the way that you find insight, like you show the reader insight into a topic, it's not on the surface. It's not, and then I discovered that I, really like banana ice cream, right? Like, that's a really stupid example. But the idea of, you don't just declare what you've discovered in the essay, right? It needs to be deep and underneath. You need to show it to us through imagery, through how you connect us with what's happening. Do you know what I'm saying? It's really important that it's subtle and not direct. You want to be specific, right? But you don't want to tell us how to feel or how you feel. You want to show us through the actions of the essay. So we're going to try this out with 2 different exercises. The first one is called Flood of Memory. It gets you ready to write memoir. Toni Morrison, who's this wonderful author, she likens memory to the way the Mississippi River, years after being straightened and pushed into levees by the Army Corps of Engineers, still strains at times to flood its banks and revisit the original meandering route. All water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was, Morrison tells us. I think that's really interesting, especially this week. I live in Sebastopol, and we had some serious flooding last week during the storm. And one of the things that I write about is the Laguna de Santa Rosa. It's the watershed that's located next to Sebastopol. And it's an area that's been flooding my entire lifetime and for everyone's entire lifetimes. I mean, it's been flooding since the Laguna started. The whole purpose of the Laguna is to provide a floodplain for the Russian River Valley. Probably not the best place to build a town right next to it, but a few years ago, in fact 6 years ago, they established, they allowed this wonderful shopping center, the Barlow, to build on the Laguna de Santa Rosa, so in the floodplain. And last week, they had set up parameters on how to protect them against flood. Then last week, all those parameters failed, and all the businesses went underwater. And it reminds me that all water has a perfect memory, and is forever trying to get back to where it was. So the Laguna does not care about the parameters that we put forward, right, as ways to control the flood. It will find a way to get the water where it's supposed to be so that it can drain the Russian River Valley, which worked out well for the people of Guerneville, didn't flood as high as it would have. So this is just a long way of saying that as a writer, we're like the Laguna de Santa Rosa, or we're like the river. We remember where we were, what valley we ran through, what banks were like, the light that was there, and the route back to our original place. You are always going to be traveling the tributaries of your past life. Many times the flood of memory is derived. You can set forth this filling, right? This exercise by just thinking about a single thing, right? So a blue pitcher your aunt always kept in her window that caught the morning sunlight, or what your bedroom ceiling looked like as a child and how you felt looking up at it, or the way it felt to play in the creek as a child. For me, I grew up on 10 acres, and we have a limestone bedded creek in the backyard where I spent pretty much all of my childhood. So if I go to that creek, those memories flood back to me, right? So once you remember, so I want you to spend some time thinking about objects and places that trigger memories for you. And then once you remember that object or feeling, let it lead you to another and another through free writing. I'd like you to write for 15 minutes continuously. That means you don't stop, no matter what. Clearly describe the object or place or feeling and use your sensory details. What it smells like, what it looks like, what it sounds like, right? Be as specific as possible. Use metaphor and simile. Don't be afraid to take risks, right? That's what this is all about. And let that object connect you with another object or idea or story. Let it all link together. After you've written your free write, spend 5 minutes thinking about what you've written. Why are these things important? What could be your purpose in writing about these things? Your next one is to write an essay of delight. And I'm going to begin, and I apologize about my voice. It's just scratchy today. So sometimes memoir is really immediate. It's not about the past. It's about today. And the poet Ross Gay takes everything in his essay collection, The Book of Delights, which is something that just came out. He takes everything that happens to him in a single day, every day. He does this for a whole year. Every day he writes a little essay. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do it. Poets in 201, 202. You don't have to do anything else every day. You're good for the semester. But what I would like you to do is to listen first to this one essay that he wrote from, it's the first one. It's called My Birthday, Kinda. It's my 42nd birthday, and it would make perfect, if self-involved, sense to declare the day of my birth a delight, despite the many years I've almost puritanically paid no attention to it. A sad performance of a certain masculine nonchalance, non-flamboyance. Might have been, poor thing. Now it's all I can do not to bedeck myself in every floral thing imaginable. Today both earrings and socks. Oh, and my drawers hibiscus patterned, with the codling pocket in front to boot. And if there's some chance to wear some bright and clinging colors, believe me, some bit of healing for my old man, surely, who would warn us against wearing red, lest we succumb to some stereotype I barely even know. A delight that we can heal our loved ones, even the dead ones. Oh, broken, oh, beautiful. So let me first say, yes, mostly the day of my birth is an utter and unmitigated delight. And not only for the very sweet notes I sometimes get that day, already 5 by 8:15 a.m. from Taiwan, the Basque Country, Palo Alto, Bloomington, and Frenchtown, New Jersey, but also for the actual miracle of a birth, not just the beautifully zany and alien and wet and odorous procedure called procreation, but for the many thousand, million accidents, no, impossibilities leading to our births. For God's sakes, my white mother had never even met a black guy. My father failed out of Central State, too busy looking good and having fun, so they say, got drafted and was counseled by his old man to enlist in the Navy that day so as not to go where the black and brown and poor kids go in the wars of America. And they both ended up, I kid you not, in Guam. Black man, white woman, the year of loving verse Virginia, on a stolen island in the Pacific, a staging ground for American expansion and domination. Come some babies, one of them me. Anyway, you get it. The older I get, in all likelihood closer to my death than to my birth, despite all the arugula and quinoa, the more I think of this day as a delight. But that's not today what I want to land on, if only because one's birthday is also the day of hollering many delights, if you can muster them, which today I can. This morning I was walking through Manhattan, head down, checking directions, when I looked up to see a fruit truck selling lychee, 2 pounds for $5, and I had $10 in my pocket. Then, while buying my bus ticket for later that evening, I witnessed the Transbridge teller's face soften after she had endured a couple of unusually rude interactions in front of me as I kept eye contact and thanked her. She called me honey first, delight, baby second, delight, and almost smiled before I turned away. On my way to the Flatiron Building, there was an aisle of Kusa dogwood, looking parched, but still the prickly knobs of fruit nestled beneath the leaves. A cup of coffee from a well-shaped cup, a fly, its wings hauling all the light in the room, landing on the porcelain handle as if to say, "Notice the precise flare of this handle, as though designed for the romance between the thumb and the index finger that holding a cup can be." Or the peanut butter salty enough, or the light blue bike the man pushed through our lobby, or the top knot of the barista, or the sweet glance of the man in his stylish short pants, well-lotioned ankles gleaming beneath, walking two little dogs, or the woman stepping in and out of her shoe, her foot curling up and stretching out and curling up. All right, so that's his essay on just a single day's delights. So I want you to write your own mini essay. It can be 250 words to 400 words. But I want you to just record everything you encounter in a day that delights you. And I'd like you to maybe go through your day first and let it happen and take some notes, and then sit down later and let it just kind of happen. Try to be as specific as possible, but don't follow chronological order. Let it all get jangled up and moved around just like Ross Gay does. All right. So for your assignment this week, your formal assignment, what I'd like you to do is consider one of these 4 prompts. First, you can use either one of the 2 journals that you just wrote and revise them into your own creative nonfiction essay of about 500 words. But if neither one of those is working for you, here's 3 more things you can do. You can write a creative nonfiction essay of at least 500 words where you answer one or more of the following questions. What are you most afraid of? What as a child did you totally misunderstand, but now as an adult see differently? What part of your body do you obsess over as too small, too large, oddly proportioned, or totally dull? If you could change your name, what would you change it to? What would this change represent, actually or symbolically, and why do names matter? Okay, that's one prompt. The second one is, write a creative nonfiction essay of at least 500 words where you choose a family memory that everyone seems to remember differently. Now explore. Tell us your version. Tell us how your mother remembers it, or that she refuses to remember it at all, or your father. Don't try to win the argument. Remember, don't be a hero or a martyr, right? Instead, explore the gap between the 2 memories. What have you forgotten? This is your third prompt. This may seem odd, but often what we've forgotten tells a story about ourselves. Maybe you used to go to summer camp and you've forgotten the details, what the cabin smelled like, what it felt like to dive into the cold lake and go under. What might be the truth about the missing gap? What can you learn by doing research and asking others? What will you never know? All right, or you can, as I said, revise one of the 2 journal entries that you did. As you revise and you finish your creative nonfiction piece, remember, before you turn it in, you must have a title. And remember, the title is the first place you get to interact with the reader. So think about the best title you can give. Make sure you run spell check and you correct any grammatical errors. See if your revision is significantly different than the exercise you wrote in your journal this week, right? Have you created a strong, distinctive voice? Have you remembered to fill in the details that may seem obvious to you, but won't seem obvious to readers? Have you avoided making yourself look unbelievably good or unbelievably bad? Are any factual claims defendable? Will anyone potentially be hurt by your writing? That is something to think about, but you don't have to think about it too much in this class, right? Unless you're going to be turning this into the Jessamine West contest. Do you understand how your writing connects to the larger world around you? And have you made the best use of literary methods? Meaning, have you used sensory detail? Have you used braiding? Have you used narrative in a way that really pushes the creative nonfiction forward. All right, finally, if you are in English 201 or 202, congratulations on finishing your month of poems. I'm so proud of you. I also wrote a month of poems, and I'll finish posting them all so you guys know it's actually happened. And you guys, 2 of them already got published, so that's pretty amazing. I appreciate that you guys participated in the Poem a Day project. I know it was really hard, and I'm really proud of you guys that did it. And I will give everyone who completes all of the poems 40 points. So that's a big chunk of points for people that finish them. Now that we're done with doing our Poem a Day project, though, we're going to move on to workshopping. And we're going to be workshopping every week. You're going to be workshopping each other's work. What I'd like you to do is to go back to your poems and see which one you want to work on. I want you to really revise it. That means make it completely different than how it originally appeared. If for some reason you don't have any of my comments back on your poems and you want comments, you can email me or you can stop by my office hours and I will provide comments directly. Please revise your poem and then post it as your own post by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. this week. Then you need to respond to all of your peers' posts with both positive and constructive comments about how he or she can improve his or her poem. Your comments should be at least 250 words. That's a page, and should refer to specific aspects of the poem. Please post all of your comments on your peers' work by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. If you have any questions about this, as usual, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer them for you. For English 200, we will begin workshopping next week, next Monday. You will get a prompt to have you workshop. And I'd like you to think about this week which poem you might want to workshop in our workshop, okay? So start thinking about it. You can start revising if you want. You can send me emails if you have questions about one of your poems. And then the following week, we'll be doing a creative nonfiction piece. So you can start thinking about that as well. All right, guys, that is it for this week. You're doing a great job. I love the work that you're producing. Can't wait to read what you guys did in the last 2 weeks and catch up. Keep up the good work. As always, my office hours are Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to 12:30 and from 1:30 to 3. But if those times don't work for you, please let me know and we can set up our own time, okay? Usually on a Monday or Wednesday, I have more flexibility and can do phone call conferences as well. All right, guys, that's it for this week. I will see you guys on the line.